What is up, everybody? We're back. I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, Heather C. I Love a Mama's Boy, Season 3, Episode 4, Part 2 of this podcast. And we need to talk about Matt and Brittany's first solo sleepover date. And I say solo because Kelly was not invited. She was there. She was lurking, but she was not invited. And the date actually went really well. Matt planned it out really well. There were roses, there was food, there was drinks, there were s'mores, there was an outdoor patio atmosphere, and everything went well. Kelly feels that she was not involved enough. She could not sit in her kitchen and watch what was taking place. And the destruction of a bush is where we ended up. And I don't know how we ended up here. Kelly went to her husband, Pat, and asked him to have someone and pull up a bush because it was too obstructive to her view of Matt's patio and door and windows. And actually, Matt's dad said, I don't think that's a good idea. There should be privacy. There should be time for Matt and Brittany to get to know each other without you being able to lurk. And Kelly felt that that was blasphemous and ridiculous. And she took matters into her own hands and actually woke them up to the sounds of an ATV ripping the tree out of the ground and dragging it in a ceremonious victory lap around the house and kind of showing in her own words, she said to Brittany, I'm batshit crazy. And I don't know any other way to describe it, for someone to do that. And she's really just trying to scare Brittany away. And Brittany is actually thinking, maybe I should run.
Well, she didn't lie. Kelly has always been out there, and there's no doubt in my mind how much she loves Matt. That's obvious. But here's the thing. He can't get much closer to you. He lives in your backyard. I think it's okay if you can't see inside of his house. He's still in there. He'll be fine. And you might not want to see what's happening inside. That's your son. You don't want to see him in any adult situations. That's traumatizing to a parent. The bush was probably a good thing. And I agree with her husband where he's like, that's all you. I'm not moving that. You want to move, that's all you. And I didn't think she was going to rip this poor, bush out the ground the way she did. That's crazy. But she's always proven that her love for her son is very crazy, so I'm not taken back by it. But it looks like Brittany is along for the ride. Looks like she just rolled her eyes and went back in the house okay, this is what we're doing. I feel like if he ends up with Brittany long term, they might actually have a really good relationship because I feel like Brittany can follow along with Kelly's games that she plays. So
I do think
be a good match.
Yeah, I do think that. I feel like Brittany is a match for Kelly and she's going to challenge her. I think other women probably will look at Kelly as someone that is intimidating and scary. And Brittany kind of looks at her and kind of giggles and says, well, as crazy as you can be, I can be crazy as well if you push me to that point. And I feel like Brittany is looking at it as though if I want to be with him, that's something that I will not just deal with, but I will also play games with you. And I feel like she's meeting her there. And speaking of how close they can be, I forgot to mention Kelly came over before the date and brought over condoms and mood music. And when you said how much closer can they be, it popped in my head, they can't be any closer than this. Honestly, there's no possible way for a mother and son to be closer than Kelly and Matt at this point, because bringing over condoms and mood music and then watching from the window, it's almost unimaginable that it happened. But like you said, Kelly loves Matt more than anything in this world. And after his last relationship and how he ended up hurt, she has made it her personal vendetta to go after any woman who will attempt to hurt Matt. And like I said, any woman who's willing to date Matt, she is in for a fight. All right, guys. So let's talk about Esther, Lena, and Ethan, right? So they're getting married, and Esther is actually an amazing mother-in-law to be because she's paying for everything, planning everything. And she gave Lena one thing that she's allowed her own personal touches for, and that is the rehearsal dinner. She's letting her pick the venue. She's letting her make the guest list. She's letting her pick the food, or so we think. So Esther arrives at the venue and she automatically starts planning. She automatically says that they should get a food truck. She automatically starts taking over. And we have to understand that this is the first of her 4 sons to actually get married. And Esther is a born party planner. She's never actually hired a party planner in her life. So this is just something that she does. And at some point, Dana feels like this is not actually going to be her wedding. This is going to be Esther and Ethan's ceremony, and she's just going to be able to show up and partake in it. Her exact words actually were, I'm going to show up to the venue and be just as surprised at the decorations and how things are as everyone else, because I literally don't know what Esther is going to do. So on a conversation walk with her bestie, Maddie, she has made the decision to have a conversation with Esther. And I'm worried about the outcome of this because Esther is very set in her ways and she wants things to be a certain way. But she's going to speak up and say that she wants things done in accordance to her. She wants her wedding to be reflective of herself. And I think that's a normal thing to ask for.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that, Esther's so involved and she is, footing the bill for it. That's very nice of her to do that when it is her son. I just think that their relationship to me is very questionable. And I'm like, I feel like their public display and all of that is just, it's a bit much. It's really overdone and it's very uncomfortable to watch. I think that his fiance really needs to like put her foot down. She puts up with a lot of stuff and a lot of undercover disrespect. So I think like she should be like, all right, this might be your first son's marriage, but this is my first marriage. And, let's do some compromising. I'm not saying you can't be involved, but let me pick out the napkins. Let me, pick out the color scheme. And there's so much more that they can do to be involved without hurting anyone's feelings. She's already sharing the groom.
I mean, I think that this rehearsal dinner is a good way for her to show what she's capable of and prove to her that she can help plan and she can help do things. But Esther has to give her a shot. She has to give her a chance to do that. When you don't trust people to do things, you won't give them an opportunity to even mess up. You don't even give them that shot to make a jump to do it. And I'm hoping that this conversation goes well because she hasn't really had this type of conversation with her before. And she had a pep talk with her friend and she's ready and she thinks that it's going to go well. But you never know when it comes to a mother-in-law to be, right? You never know how it's going to end up. She wants things her way. And we know the relationship between her and her son, there's not really anyone that's going to come in between that, even a wife to be. So we're going to have to wait and see how that goes. And I know the wedding will be beautiful. But again, is it going to be Lena's wedding or Esther's wedding? All right, guys, that's it for part 2. I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, Heather C. This is the I Love a Mama's Boy Season 3, Episode 4 podcast recap, part 2. Thank you for joining us, and make sure you log to with us every Sunday night. And we'll talk to you all really soon.
Bye.